Hello everyone. I decided to try something new today where new patch notes came out the end of May, the 31st. So about a day ago now. I don't think I've done a run on them yet, or maybe I did do my Moss Cloak run on them, but I did want to just kind of go over them, give my opinion on some of the things, and just kind of get it out there. This is actually their second big patch already. So I missed the first one, but I kind of want to go through these. It's also a good test for me to do different things on stream, different window captures. It helps me learn. So let's jump in and just start going over the patch and then do a run or two as well and see if we can pick up on any of the changes that have been done. So here's early access patch 0.1.3. I think they've done a quick little hot fix about Gunk 2. Little hot fixes I'm not going to go over, but any major patches they do, I kind of want to pull up and go over together. So we'll just start right on the gameplay changes. I won't, I'll give my opinion. There are some things that I won't really have an idea about because I do not know every single vestige name and such like that. So I will just let you know. I'm not sure what this will do if I'm not sure. So jumping in, we now roll crit if binding's action stack reduces cooldown to 0. So I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think it has to do with maybe there was a bug or you weren't able to get a crit. Well, I don't know what this one is actually. My thought was it was going to be if you ran out of willpower or such like that, you couldn't get a crit on it, but I know I've rolled a crit going into next turn on my last willpower use. We now roll crit if binding's action stack reduces cooldown to 0. So it must have something to do with, yeah, I don't know about this one. The very first one, that's not a not a great sign, is it? I don't know. So it sounds like it was a bug or something that um, wasn't happening that they wanted to happen. But I've rolled crits when I changed, so maybe it has something to do with the cooldown bindings. Yeah, I don't know about this one. It sounds good. Let's just say that. It sounds like something wasn't happening that can now happen. It's not a great start for me. All right, fixed legendary vestige Primacentium not granting shield from Cinderpox damage. This is the legendary that gives you 50% shield the next turn after you take it. I think I've taken this twice, and one of them was against Cinder, and it didn't feel like it was doing much. Well, this would kind of be why. A lot of the Cinder damage is Cinder Pox, so um, the Vestige felt underwhelming, and this is probably why. So this is a good fix. Fixed after image Ascension Shadow image, granting the caster stealth instead of the ally in multiplayer. This seems kind of like just shoring up the ability. I haven't played multiplayer, so this just seems like it was not working correctly. It's just a fix. So it was granting the person casting it stealth instead of the person they're casting it on who may need it. So it's just shoring up what the ability is supposed to do. Updated Cinder's cleansing mushroom to show how many turns left before it disappears. This is good. This is just a visual update. so you know when your mushroom's about to disappear on the cinder fight. That would have helped me a couple times, although I'm kind of just always clicking it, but this will help you plan out your turns a little better. Like, oh, I don't need to grab it this turn. It's not disappearing until next turn. It's always good to add visual updates to assist the player, right? Added Psionic Charge tooltip to Clairvoyance passive. This sounds great. I would love any and all updates to Clairvoyance, visual ability to be able to tell, when the strong abilities are up and such like that. So the Psionic Charge is pretty important. I know I've used my Spirit Bomb plenty of times without having full charge. Sometimes it's on purpose, but a lot of times it's not. It's just hard to always look over to that bar to see if your Psionic Charge is up. I started to get into the habit of it, but this is great. I love any visual updates that helps the player. Okay, fixed reopened ability upgrade draft showing options for ability that no longer has upgrade slots. This sounds like a bug. I'm not 100% sure. Reopened ability upgrade draft. So it sounds like a bug where you had no slots left in that ability. If you walked away and came back, so if you left, it could show that you had an upgrade there. I don't know if this is visual only or if you could choose and get no upgrade. That's kind of interesting. It says reopened. Yeah. I don't think I've ever come across this myself, but it just sounds like either a visual bug or a bug that occurs. That's pretty interesting. But yeah, any fix that causes an issue with the player is always a good thing. I wonder what happens if they chose the ability that's interesting. It just seems like a either a visual bug fix or just a standard bug fix. I kind of wish they had these broken out. I think there is a bug section, right? Engine changes and other bug fixes. So I wonder if they're not considering some of these things a bug, because that kind of sounds like a bug to me. Fix reopened ability draft. So interesting. Okay, updated the text on the Splinter Blotter's Amplify effect to clarify it functions differently than other channelers in that it doesn't clear at the end of turn only when the caster is defeated. Okay, I'm definitely going to start making notes on these before I just jump into them. The text on the Splinter's Blot Amplify effect to clarify it functions differently than other channels. Okay, so I think I know what this is. There are multiple enemies, typically not on the first turn, but on the second, that'll start casting an ability instead of doing an attack or doing an AoE or anything like that. It's typically the caster ones. So this is a specific one called the Splinter Blotter, where they amplify damage. So this will be interesting to check on our next run if any of these mobs appear. It just looks like it's a visual update or a text update to show that it's not going to go away unless you kill them. I guess it was confusing because it's different than the other channelers who their effect does just go away. I do know the amplify, it's like a little lightning bolt. caster. But yeah, I definitely don't know every mob name, but I do know this amplify ability. But that's always good. Again, it's good to, there are a lot of things like we've talked about before where it's not fully clear how it functions. So just shoring up all of those is always good. It's early access, right? So you just want the least amount of confusion to every person as possible. Updated the text and the opposites attract sea breach to make it more clear that it can give augments lower than the specified rarity. More specifically, when choosing the 3 uncommon augment choice, it will give common augments if both uncommon augments are unique. Okay, sorry, I'm having to drink a little extra water here too. I know what event this is. There are, choose 3 uncommon, choose 3 common, and then 1 rare or something like that. So I guess uh, I've never taken this 3 uncommon augment choice before. So it sounds like since you can only get 3, some abilities don't have, like you may have already chosen one as well. So you can get uncommon if they are unique, but you can't get the same common one. I guess it's just a little confusing. It's actually a little confusing how they word this too, but I've never taken that event. But I guess people like the way it was worded that if you, this one's actually hard to explain. So if you have an ability that has only 3 greens on it and you already have one of the greens, it sounds like it will give you an uncommon one if both uncommon augments are unique. Because there are some that are damage, there's some that are increase range. This would be interesting to see how many abilities this actually affects. So it doesn't make this event any better, it just makes it more clear that you can get a worse augment, or at least an uncommon augment choice. So it's good that it makes it more clear. I kind of wish that they would update this ability that, or this event. This is one of the worst events in my choice, or in my opinion. It seems like there's almost no reason to take the uncommon ones. The one rare is typically better because you don't want to fill up your bindings with uncommon and, gray and green uh, augments typically. So that's why I have never even taken the other choices in the event that this updated text fixes. All right, remove team captain from being added to challenge buffs at bronze 1. It will now first show up at silver 1. This is just an update to change one of the harder early buffs that the mobs can get from bronze to silver. I like when they do this. They, of course, have all the analytics, right? So they're probably seeing a lot of fights where people are dying to this buff in bronze, so they want to move it to silver. Team captain is, and I may mess this up a little, but I know I've seen it and complained about it a couple times early on. It's basically a mob that gives free or it's either free health and shield or free damage and shield to every other mob. So like I've seen this on burrowers a lot, where they'll give every other mob on the battlefield like a 5% health and shield or a 5% damage and shield. I can't remember the two. I know one of them is shield. I can't remember if it's health or damage. But yeah, it just makes every other mob on the board stronger. So if this lands on something with high health, it's kind of a pain because you typically have to save the high health enemies for later, so everything else is getting a buff from it. But yeah, I like when they do things like this. Um, they get all the analytics, they know which buffs are probably causing problems for the most players. Ending runs. Removed confusing double ink spot and Vengewood Sea Breach. Okay, I don't know this one specifically, but it just sounds like double ink spot and Vengewood Sea Breach. It must be where you pick this up in this one specific sea breach. It looks like you can maybe pick it up twice. But yeah, just a little visual issue that they're shoring up. Argoloth's tentacles no longer cause unavoidable AoE damage when they erupt after being defeated. Their base attack has been increased slightly. This is nice. I'm not a big fan of unavoidable damage, especially in this case. Like the tentacles just pop up and hit you. When they erupt after being defeated. So I can't remember if they stop the AoE damage they do when they pop up, or if they just direct attack you when they pop up. I'll have to look at that next time I fight Argoloth. I think their base attack being increased slightly is good too. I mean, a lot of times they only do 1 or 2 damage. That fight's always kind of been a DPS check. There are ways to sustain it, of course, but that fight being the main fight in the beta, a lot of people have this fight solved already, so they're probably again seeing analytics and increasing the attack is but removing unavoidable damage always seems more fair, right? Fixed poison tooltip damage text not updating based on the player stats. Uh, I've never noticed this, but the dot damage things are always little math problems like based on your stats, based on your vestiges, based on your augments. So um, I like paying attention to the details, but getting into the spreadsheet details and 100% accurate damage that's going to occur and all that. Um, I can't do that on the fly, right? And I don't want to open a spreadsheet up every time I'm playing and just kind of make sure everything is correct. But that's good. Anytime something doesn't match up, it's good to short up and fix it. This is a big part of early access, right? Making sure everything lines up. Wow, this is gonna take a minute. Big Scavenger's Dash animation Shuriken Jutsu. Granting crit on use. I did not know this was broken, so that's good. This is my favorite ascension for the dash. You just get 5 Shuriken. Granting crit on use. Interesting. Yeah, just sounds like a fix. So good. I mean, Mosklo is fine with a broken ascension, probably multiple ones, but it's always good to fix what it's supposed to do, right? Updated Spirit Bomb Ascension Spirit Cannon no longer pushes enemies at full charge. This is Clairvoyant. I have noticed this. I didn't notice in the tooltip if it says it's not supposed to push them, or maybe they just took it out. because it's kind of a little awkward. You push enemies away from the rest of your abilities. I'll have to see if they just took that function out. It sounds like that they're just taking that function out completely, but which is fine. Clairvoyant's difficult, and this Spirit Cannon Ascension is really good, and this makes it kind of difficult to control. You'll kind of push enemies away from each other, and if you're not killing them. Updated status effect wildfire and toxic tooltips to clarify. They are removed at the start of the turn. This is great. It's just, again, early access, shoring up things so they function how they're. It's just giving the player more information, right? Which is always a good thing. Well, I won't say always a good thing, but usually a good thing. A funky, crazy UI could become too much, but updated fonts of wisdom to be more likely to show higher rarity choices. I love this change. Favorite one so far. Um, I hate the low level rarity, like you go to a font of wisdom and you get a gray. It kind of feels like, oh, maybe I should have taken something else. This just means your stat choices are going to be better overall. So love this change. Fix the Twin Fang status effect icon. So I've never noticed this, but it probably looks like something other than the vestige. So they weren't, it's just hard to tell sometimes, not because I've seen other icons that are all like the same and it becomes confusing. You don't know where this buff is coming from, or you have to mouse over it to see. So they probably fix this to look like the same icon as the vestige maybe. But yeah, again, it's good. Showing up information, make it easier to follow. Reduce damage done by the captor. I'm not sure which mob this is, but obviously, again, it's just analytics. This guy is doing too much damage in fights. He's killing people. I think I know who it is, but if I'm not 100% sure, I'm not just gonna make guesses. But yeah, again, this is just a quick, easy change based on analytics that they are collecting, I'm sure. The Gilded Egg Sea Breach Break It Open option base level stat increased from common to uncommon. That's good. I'm 99% sure that this is one of the events that I really like, that you can get an epic vestige in like 4 fights. So I've never taken this. I've always taken the epic vestige, which looks like what this next one is. The Gilded Egg. Sea Breach. Wait a little while. Glyph increase from 3 to 4. No. Because it was 4 before. Unless they changed it back to 3 and put it back to 4. So maybe they dropped it down to 3 and I haven't taken it since then. Because when I was taking it, it was 4. Unless it was bugged and said 4, but actually came out in 3. Yeah, this is one of my favorite reasons to go to Sea Breaches early. Because there are 2 events where you can get an epic vestige really early. And it's, if you get a good epic vestige, which most of them are, it really, really can break the run early, which is fun. You don't want to do it every time, right? Because the game could get stale, but it's fun to have a really game-breaking bug here, or I'm not bug, game-breaking run here and there. But yeah, I thought this was 4, so maybe they dropped it to 3 and increased it back to 4. 4 feels good. It feels kind of fair to be 4 fights. It means you don't get it immediately. Because you could get the event on like your third after your first two fights, I guess. And then four fights later is you're kind of like at the second boss or so, so we're close to it. Light in the Darkness, Sea Breach, a lot option cost reduced from 75 to 50. I'm not 100% sure which which one this is, but I do know some of the events, some of the options at Sea Breaches didn't feel great, so hopefully they're making them better. I'm not 100% sure what this is, but it looks like they're balancing out Sea Breach. I feel like Sea Breach isn't a great option because there are so many bad ones that you can hit. RNG is good in some cases, but if some of the options are completely terrible, it feels horrible to lose out on stats or lose out on augments and things to go to a Sea Breach if there are too many just worthless options. The Wandering Binder Sea Breach gives some help option, now rewards more quillings. This is good. I don't remember how many quillings it was, and they don't state it. But again, they're shoring up Sea Breaches to try to make them better, it looks like. Either enough people aren't taking them, or they're realizing that the rewards are just a little bit off. So a lot of these look like Sea Breaches ones. Shrouded Miser, Sea Breach, grab the coins off the desk. Quilling gained, debuff reduced from 30 to 20. I do know this one. It's you take a debuff for the rest of the run. So this Sea Breaches was I never took it and it always seemed bad, like to ruin your quilling intake for the rest of the run. Unless it was, maybe the last zone or the second to last. Overstimulated Mutator. Quilling reward increased from 75 to 125. I don't know where this comes from. It sounds like a Sea Breach since it's kind of all in here, but I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to stay. But it's a balancing thing. They have the analytics. I'm gonna listen to them when they say, this is underperforming. Let's up it or decrease it. Bombastic Mutator. Quilling reward decreased from 75 to 25. I don't know what this one is, but uh, it's again the analytics. It seems fine to me. If they're shoring up some of these, they increased this one by 50 and decreased the one below it by 50. I wonder. Mutator Quilling reward. So I know there's one on a bounty pistol that's really good, but I don't know what they're called. I don't know specifically. I know I was making a ton of money off a bounty pistol one run. Wit Thief Mutator Quilling reward increased. So this one I know. This one is from. So this is the books that you choose. Wit Thief is one of the hardest challenges where if you pick up an orb, it's -1 willpower next turn. So it looks like what they're doing is increasing the gold or quillings that you initially get when you choose these. Um, when you choose these three. So Wit Thief increasing is great. I've only taken it once because it's such a hard mutator. Bombastic, I think, is the one where they just toss a bomb at you. So decreasing that's a really easy one. Overstimulated, I don't remember what this one is though. Is it where they get attack power each turn? No, because that wasn't 75. Unfortunately, since I'm in Inkbound now, I don't remember. I don't have the options of like some of the lower options. But I'm gonna trust this. Wit Thief definitely needs to be increased. It's the hardest one, in my opinion. If they're gonna increase and decrease these, they're just trying to fix balancing. They're seeing people die a lot to overstimulated, so they're increasing the money. They're not seeing people die very often to bombastic, if ever, and they're taking it every time they have a choice. There's a couple I take every single time I see it because it's so easy. So that's probably how they're doing a lot of these adjustments. They're just seeing nobody take Wit Thief, so we need to increase how much money we give them. This is just one way that they're doing the balancing, right? They could try to make it easier, but instead they're just going to try to adjust the quillings that you get. Um, I hope in some cases that they just change the mutators themselves if they're seeing nobody take them, because like, oh man, that's way too hard. Nobody ever takes it, so heavy pop. Oh, okay, so that's good. So they are actually adjusting the mutators themselves too. Okay. Heavy pockets mutator now slots from -2 to -4, but max stacks reduced from 10 to 5. So this is one of the ones that I do. It's your movement based on how many quillings you have. Every 100 quillings, it was -2. So they're increasing it to -4 now. So you're just hitting the max stacks a lot faster, or the max negative that you can get. So it was -2 and 10, so -20 movement before was the max. It's still -20 movement, but you get there a lot faster. So you get there at um, 500 gold now instead of 1,000, or 500 quillings, I'm sorry, instead of 1,000. So that's good. I mean, it's bad because it makes it harder, but this was the easiest high challenge buff that they had. I take it every single time I see it because it was so easy. This just makes it a bit tougher. You're losing your movement a lot faster. So that's good. They are balancing some of these based on what they're seeing. And instead of just making price updates, how many quillings you get, they are actually changing the challenge itself. This one was super easy, and it's one of the high challenge ones you can get in Inkbound. I think Plat 1 is when you get the final upgrade to your challenges, the books that you choose for which zone you go to. And I've taken this one every time I saw it or seen it because it's so easy. So that sounds like it's going to make it tougher. Shimmering Barricade Mutator shield increased from 5 to 8%. I don't know what this one is, but small number adjustments, I'm just going to err on the side of caution for them. I'm sure they have a reason for this. I don't actually know which one this one is. Updated physical, magical, and ability power boost from vestiges and potions to remove after damage status effects such as burn and poison. So I actually don't know what this means. That should have tied into the damage. Maybe some of them weren't tying into the damage that burn and poison were doing. Like if you got an ability power buff during your turn from a vestige or something, it wasn't updating the damage that your burn poison were doing, or any of your dots. It just says such as burn and poison, but it sounds like it's trying to imply any physical magic ability. Yeah, it sounds like your damage wasn't updating like it should. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure on that one. This would be great if you were getting more damage during a turn, but it wasn't updating your dots. So it would actually make the fights harder. So if this is fixing that, then that sounds great. Updated Shattered and Hex to remove after damage status effects such as burn and poison. So this sounds like the same thing, where if you're putting Hex on them after you put on the dot, it'll still increase the damage. Since the dot's not going to tick until, I mean, this sounds like how these kind of should have worked if that's the case, and they're just shoring up how it kind of should have worked. Updated Rare Vestige, Burning Heart, you deal 50% damage to enemies inflicted with burn. You deal plus 35 damage to inflicted with burn. Rare Vestige, Burning Heart. So it sounds like they nerfed that a little. 15% damage nerf. Or they buffed it. Sorry, I'm just going back up here. I'm taking a drink of water at the same time, but I'm going back up here to verify one that I know for sure. So I know this was 2 and it went to 4. So this was 50 and went to 35. The reason I'm doing that is because the next one is the poison one. And it used to be 25% at one point, and now it looks like it's going up to 50, but it says 35 here. Whenever I saw this rare, oh, okay, it's a vestige, not an augment. I was thinking this was the augment that increased it by 25%. So this is buffing of 2 specific vestiges, one for the burn and one for the poison. I don't know if I've ever seen this vestige, either one of these. So maybe I don't have them unlocked, or maybe I've just never noticed them. Does look like it's a nerf though. From 50% to 35%. From 2 to -4, from 5 to 8. So yeah, this looks like a nerf to both of these. 50% to 35%. I can't really comment on these. I do know some of the dot builds can get completely insane. So maybe this was one of the causes that they're seeing that's making the dot builds completely insane. But every time I've had a dot build kind of blow up, it's been more from base stats and vestiges that synergize more so than just doing extra damage to them. Hmm. Updated legendary vestige Trickster's Hook, 5 ability power to 3 ability power. So that's a minor nerf. I don't know that uh, vestige, like off just the name and the 5 ability power to 3 ability power. I can't think of what this is. But yeah, another little nerf. Updated legendary vestige Heart of the Last Lifeless. On your first turn, gain 1 ability power until end of combat for every 10 max HP you have. On your first turn, gain 1 ability power until the end of combat for every 7 max HP you have. So it's a little buff. I saw a post, or it might have been on the subreddit, where somebody had 158 max HP. It was just a little imager link or whatever. So, but that's definitely an outlier, right? That's, I think the most max HP I ever had was 90, I think. So I would get, what, 9 ability power from that, whereas after this buff, I would get, oh god, 12, 11, or 12. I think 12. Anyway, quick math and I'm sleepy. So this is good. This is a buff. I'm sure, again, they're seeing the item not performing up to what they want it to. Updated legendary vestige, Tetra Twin. On damaging an enemy, 50% chance to do that amount of damage again. This vestige does not stack. 2. On damaging enemy, 35% chance to do that amount of damage again. So this one's a nerf. I don't think I have this one unlocked. I think I've seen it as a possible unlock, but I've never been able to use it yet. It sounded really strong. So maybe it was too strong and they had to nerf it. 50% chance to do like basically double your damage. Seems pretty ridiculous to me. Like just thinking of Magma Miner hitting double fully binded or augmented smash, for 3 or 4,000 damage twice seems kind of crazy. So yeah, maybe it sounds like it was overperforming here. Small nerf. Updated Epic Vestige Granilla's Pendant from Epic to Rare. I really like changes like this. I've seen some vestiges where they may have been bugged or overperforming, but I was like, wow, why is this a green or why is this a blue? I've definitely seen a lot of blue ones that felt more like green ones. So I like that they're shoring up some of these, show up more often or earlier in runs. I don't know which specific one this is, but changing it from epic to rare just means people can get it earlier, right? A lot easier. Updated rare vestige Harbinger's Trophy. On defeating an enemy with an attack more than double their max HP. Gain 2 physical power until the end of combat. Change to on defeating an enemy with an attack more than double their max HP. Gain 3 physical attack. That's nice. 1 physical power buff. So this was underperforming. Updated uncommon vestige ink flat 1 cooldown per orb to 2 cooldown per orb. Uncommon to rare. So this is a buff, but it's changed also. I'm going to consider uncommon to rare a nerf. So it's kind of a little bit of both. The ability gets buffed. I guess that kind of means they need to change it from uncommon to rare if it's doing 2 cooldown per turn. I have taken this only once just to test it. This would probably make me take it more often. That's huge. Like 1 cooldown to 2 cooldown per orb buff is pretty huge. If you have multiple abilities like a cleave or something with long cooldowns, this just pretty huge buff. It's doubling its effectiveness, right? Updated rare vestige golden egg. Rare to uncommon. I think this is the one where you either get extra quillings after combat or you get hit for extra quillings. Either way, like some of the quillings ones are like I didn't see why they were a high rarity. So this sounds fine to me. Rare to uncommon just means it's going to be available earlier, easier to get. Data rare vestige is sovereign flag, deal 35% to day's enemies. So they nerfed it to deal 25%, but they also took down the rarity from rare to uncommon. This one felt really good whenever you could get dazed. So like Obelisk has a daze that can hit the whole screen with his, big slam ability. Someone like him it always felt good on. If you have a consistent way to daze, then this always felt good. Um, Looks like they're just kind of changing the tier. Take 10% of the damage off and take it from rare to uncommon. I really like that they're changing these as well because the less rares you have, the less, the more you'll be able to kind of see the ones you want. Like maybe there's too many in the rare pool now, so they're changing some of these to uncommon to green, so the rare pool can be more rare, right? So this was a rare and it went to uncommon as well. So it looks like they're trying to shore up the rare pool, maybe so it's not as big, or maybe some of these were underperforming as rares. I don't see how this one would be. This Sovereign Flag definitely felt really good if you actually had days. Okay. Updated uncommon vestige, bead of metal, 10 spike damage to 5 spike damage. New effect to match other bead uncommon vestiges on collecting an orb, gain 4 stack. Yeah, I've taken this a few times on obelisk only, but I never understood why this was different than the other ones. That all you got was the kind of spike damage and you didn't get the collecting an orb bonus that all the other ones got. So this is great. It just kind of matches them all together and it makes this one better in my opinion. I guess it doesn't really make it better since you have one less. Well, I would rather have the stacks than the spike damage. So yeah. Updated common vestige rotting calzone on collecting an orb inflict dazed on the nearest enemy once per turn. To on collecting an orb inflict dazed on the nearest enemy. I wonder if this means you can stack multiple dazed on the same person now. If so, that's pretty amazing. So for multi-orb builds, when you get 3 or 4 orbs a turn, if you could stack 3 or 4 different dazed on the same boss or such, that could get pretty powerful. Yeah, I've never seen days stacked over multiple turns. So I wonder if you can now. That'd be interesting to look for and see. And maybe you can, and I've just never seen it. I mean, that's a possibility as well. Updated Epic Vestige Bone Calcifer. On being hit, gain 3 physical power until the end of combat. On being hit, gain 2 physical power. So they nerfed this by 1. I've seen, again, some screenshots and such of people having hundreds of physical power, uh, kind of abusing some of these on hits, but you know, end of combat is fine. You can sit there and get hit by the same mob, shield it, for 10, 120, however many turns you wanted to do and sit there and get 1,000 physical power. But if it's at the end of combat, then that's fine. But I guess this was overperforming. I did like taking it on physical damage dealers, especially Obelisk, who can gain a ton of shield, but just any of them, this was a good one. 3 physical power is a lot from one hit when so many sources of you can be hit from so many sources. So yeah, just overperforming a little. I'm fine. 3 to 2 is fine. Fix bug where applying multiple stacks of status effects at once wouldn't count towards quest progress. This is great. Again, I don't know. I kind of wish they would break these out. Like the gameplay changes where they nerf and buff abilities and stuff like that would be there. And then they would have another, because they have a bug section right here, but it's kind of, it's just other bug fixes. I just kind of wish it was, you know, I don't care the order, but I wish all the numbers and buffs and nerfs were in one spot and then the actual bugs were in another. I mean, any bug fix is good, right? Like shouldn't even really have to go over it. If you're fixing a bug where multiple stacks of status effects wouldn't count, then yeah, this is great. It means, which is interesting because I finished that quest where you have to stack burn, fire, and poison with Weaver one run before I even got to the first boss. So if multiple stacks weren't even counting, can I finish that after like 2 fights or instead of 3? Yeah, bug fixes are good. I don't. I mean, I guess there are some cases where bug fix could be bad if it kind of removed something that was really fun and broken, but it's still bug fixes are good. Updated defeat Janus before Inky Might is applied quest to be a bit easier. Okay, that's good. Some of these boss quests were kind of difficult. This is one of the mini bosses, Janus's. Before Inky Might is applied. Is he the one who gets Inky Might from killing his minions, the little mobs? So if so, I might not have ever finished this. But yeah, some of the quests are difficult, so I'm good with them tuning them. Again, they have the analytics. They're seeing people aren't finishing this quest. Make it a little easier. Updated Nim, defeat Nim the Lost before Nim's protection is applied quest to correct name and bug with the quest never updating. Along the same lines. This one's even better because they're fixing the bug and fixing the quest to the correct name. So yeah, good change. Any bug fix, good. Fix the birdie on fire part 3 unlocking too early. This was the seasonal quest. Um, sure, it wasn't supposed to show up. They fixed it. It was showing up for some people. Fix the bug with unbound quill not always dropping from quilling cages. Okay, that's good. Again, bug fix, good. Nerf crit damage quest. Or crit change quest. That's some of these quests are very difficult. So I don't like how this is worded though. Nerfed crit change quest. Does that mean they made it easier? Does that mean it sounds like they made it easier to complete this quest here? So you need less crit to complete it now, I hope, because I've only completed one of these quests through general gameplay, and I kind of like the quests naturally completing. Some people are different and probably like going after all these quests and like the difficult quests that they have to focus on, but I would rather it just be something that kind of naturally happens a lot of the times. Fixed issue with Om disappearing before all related quests were completed after completing the needed. Auto-completing those dangly quests for anyone in that state. So that's good. It sounds kind of like a bug where people were stuck because he disappeared and they couldn't finish that quest. Sounds like they auto-completed them for anybody that was there. That's good. I've completed one of these in this quest line. They're pretty difficult. You have to have a certain amount of stats at a certain point. So I may have to do some runs where I focus all on, the stat gains instead of going to get augments and stuff like that. Thread the needle quest no longer required to complete in a run. I don't know what this one is. No longer required to complete in a run. Yeah, I don't know what this one is. Sorry. Fix the bug with Vulture event not dropping unbound quill quest item. It's a bug fix, so it's good. I was just trying to think of what the Vulture event is. I was thinking Sea Breach event, but I'm not sure. But yeah, bug fix is good. Again, I wish these were kind of separated out in different areas. Updated several Gardner line text to match voiceover. Okay, that's good. I guess that's gameplay. Hmm. Fix detonate not proccing Band of the Frostshade. Okay, that's good. It's just an interaction where detonate should have been proccing Brand of the Frostshade and wasn't. So that's good. That's a bug fix in my opinion as well. I mean, it does say fixed, so some say fixed bug and some just say fixed, but that's fine. Again, it's early access. I'm sure they're just kind of, you know, they have multiple people on multiple teams. Some people are writing fixed on their bullet points. Some people are writing bug fixed. So it's fine. Fixed Inkly map not granting AP from will gained from Volcus's bond enhancer. I take Inkly map a lot. It gives you AP based on how much willpower you have. So this is just fixing it where you weren't getting the extra AP from another vestige. This Volcus bond enhancer, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure this is the one that gives you extra will based on how many cooldowns you have or how many abilities you have on cooldown. So if you have 4 abilities on cooldown, you get an extra 4 willpower. It looks like the interaction just wasn't working to give you the extra AP with that. So this is actually a huge buff. I've had both of these before, if this is the vestige, I think it is. So it means I wasn't getting, 4 or 5 extra ability power that I should have been. So good. It's a bug fix. Updated common vestige, whittling mitts, 2 frostbite damage to 5 frostbite damage. A common one, huh? This is a really big buff. Um, so some classes that do like tiny damage, like the Weaver, has trouble, getting good frostbite damage out if they're just doing a little bit, but it can kind of get out of control. This means that you can proc the frostbite on them 5 times. And a lot of times that means they'll die in 1 or 2 rotations. Yeah, that seems like a really strong buff for a common vestige. Or maybe since it's not uncommon. Yeah. 5 frostbite damage is, well, I guess that's okay. So it's only 2 frostbite damage to 5 actual damage. I was thinking, so that's my mistake. I was thinking stacks of frostbite, but just the damage, that's fine. 2 is very little, 5 is a little more. So yeah, I was thinking 2 frostbite stacks. The damage itself, this is fine. It's just a small buff. Added clarification to Magma Miner Vestige Magma Metal if you had 5 or more stacks of heat last turn. Change to if you had 5 or more stacks of heat at the end of last turn. Okay. I don't know how your heat stacks would go down. Looks like they're just shoring up the wording, but the wording seemed fine to me, so maybe I'm missing something there. End of last turn or last turn is the change. But to me, that makes it sound like you could have lost your heat at some point, which I don't know of any way to lose your heat, so. But again, it could be just them shoring up a lot of the text where they want everything to say at the end of last turn instead of just last turn, just to make it more concise, which I'm good with. Consistency is good. Fixed Leaping Strike, Ascension Comet dealing physical damage instead of magic damage. This looks like a bug fix again. Fixed, bug fixed. So I guess in some cases, or maybe all cases, it was doing physical instead of magic that it's supposed to. This is the one that adds burn, so you want it to do magic damage because you're doing a magic build in most cases. Sometimes you could be a hybrid, but that's good. Bug fix. Updated throw, ascension, poison shot, physical to magical. Updated flurry, ascension, poison outputters, physical to magical. So this is kind of cool. They're updating the kind of dot ascensions to do magical damage instead of physical. So kind of like the magma miner, even though this was a bug that they fixed, they wanted it doing magic damage because of the burn talent it adds. It gives you options. Instead of always going physical on magma, you have an option. You have burn options if you want to go kind of like a magic build. And it looks like they're doing the same thing for Moss Cloak here, where they're updating his poison ascensions to magical damage. It's also more consistent, right? Which I like. So this is pretty cool. I'll definitely have to try a magic build on Moss Cloak now. See how it feels. Updated Cultivate Ascension Mushroom Growth. Create a mushroom that grants 1 ability power for each turn it's on the ground. Lasts until the end of combat. Create a mushroom that grants 1 will and 2 ability power until the end of turn for each turn it's on the ground. It's a pretty big buff. I think they can stay on the ground for 5 turns before they disappear, right? So that would be 10 extra ability power. This is Cultivate's a little tougher to get to work in solo, but this definitely feels like a huge buff in co-op because you can kind of have a support class or, a hybrid support class in co-op, whereas in solo it's a bit tougher. Like you can do it with the stronger classes, but I can never take Cultivate on Weaver or Clairvoyant. Part of it is I'm not great on them yet, and the other part is they're just a little bit weaker solo, slower to start. But yeah, this is good. I like cultivate updates. and buffs. The more it gets buffed, the more I may be able to take it and solo play it. Updated Cultivate Ascension Crop Harvest. Create a plant that restores 2 HP and grants 4 shield for every turn it's on the ground. Create a plant that grants 1 will, restores 2 HP, and grants 4 shield for each turn it's on the ground. So again, another buff for a Cultivate Ascension. It's great. I like to kind of take everything and try everything, but as I've pushed into Platinum and now Inkbound rank, I can't, like, it's very hard for me to take Cultivate because I knew if I got stuck with Ascension, I would be kind of handicapping my run and possibly losing it. So I definitely feel like Cultivate was one of the weaker solo ones. It always felt like it would be great in co-op. So, but this makes it better in both, right? So maybe I can take these more often in solo play now. 2 HP, 4 shield. So did this not add the will either? It kind of took away the will and just made it a heal, and now it's giving you the will back as well. So I know there are some ascensions that kind of take away the initial. I think the Invigorate Ascension is one where it takes away the 10 burst, but you get 2 total every time you stack it, which I really like. So yeah, this is a huge buff if so, it gives you the willpower back. I wonder if anybody was taking this Ascension without the willpower, because that kind of completely changes the ability, right? Updated Cultivate Ascension Flower Bloom, 1 will, 6 cooldown to 2 will, 6 cooldown. Nice. It looks like they're doing a lot of buffs to cultivate. This one's a fix though. Fix cultivate ascension mushroom growth granting incorrect amount of shield. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. I mean, a fix is always a good thing, right? Even if it was broken for the player instead, you don't want to have bugs, creating false sense of an ability being good when it's not. Updated cultivate ascensions to have some range as base ability. Same range as base ability. So was it lowering the range or increasing the range when it was ascended? Added some enemies to certain hard battles which weren't threatening enough. This is probably a good thing. There's definitely some pretty easy hard battles, but it's also a scary thing. Being an Inkbound rank, there are some modifiers that just make some enemies complete nightmares. So some of these hard battles could be very difficult even with the easy enemies. I do think like the little one-shot enemies probably shouldn't be in some hard battles. The explodey boys are okay. Even if they get one shot, they create, explosions on the ground for the next turn where you have to be mobile and, always on your toes. All right. Increase slightly SP rewards for normal battles. Increase slightly, comma, SP. No, I'm just kidding. There's a comma over here too, so maybe I'm doing this wrong. Increase slightly SP rewards for normal battles. Now all battles are baseline 300 SP. This might go up more in the future. SP rewards for normal battles. Um, okay. Again, their analytics, I'm gonna trust their judgment call on this. It's an increase for it may go up even more in the future, so Is this single player? So there's different rewards for single player and multiplayer co-op. What is SP? Because it can't be single player that they're referencing here if it's baseline 300 single player. That doesn't make sense. So what am I missing? SP. Increased bonus SP multiplier and multiplier for parties of 3 and 4 players from battles and run quests from 2x to 3x. Increased bonus SP multiplier and multiplier for parties of 3 or 4 from battles and run quests from 2x to 3x. Increased SP. So season pass, that's what this is. Okay. Increase slightly season pass. So the battle pass rewards for normal battles. Now all battles are baseline 300. Okay, so this is great. It just means you go through your battle pass faster, right? Get more for playing. So this is great. I'm happy always when you increase. It says it might go up more in the future too, which is it's great that they're looking at it. They're trying to be fair. They don't want people to have to play 8 to 10 hours a day to finish the battle pass. Hopefully they're balancing this so casual 2, 3 hour a day or even less, finish 1 or 2 runs a day and you can finish the battle pass. I did notice this change actually. I got a whole level and a little more in the battle pass from winning a run. I think that moss cloak uh, run I won. Increase bonus SP, so season pass, increase bonus season pass multiplier and multiplier. So maybe this is multiplayer. Season pass multiplier and multiplayer for parties of 3 and 4 players from battles and run quests from 2 times to 3 times. So this is interesting to me. Do you get more season pass XP in a co-op than you do? Do you get like a bonus? I've never played a co-op yet, so I should really just play a co-op and just see any differences. Okay. Increased season pass rewards for daily quests from 16k to 18k. Good. Increased season pass rewards for season quests from 46k to 56k and from 24 to 32k. Apologies to anyone who has already done some of these. Unfortunately, no way right now to add more points to you. Yeah, this is fine. I mean, it's early access. I don't see myself having any problem getting to the season pass, even if I don't get all the way to the end or, it's no big deal. Right now I don't see any issues getting to the end just playing casually right now, but we'll see. I think I'm level 50 or something in the season pass already, and that was before all these buffs. So, I felt like I was kind of flying through it already, but this is great. I was also playing probably a little bit more than the average person, so attach the egg icon to Ermong's eggs to show when it is hatched. This is cool. I would look at my buff bar and wonder what it was sometimes, so now it's going to look like an egg. This was my favorite event from the Sea Breach initially, but there's another one where you can spend your health in Quillings and get an epic vestige immediately, so that's my favorite now. Like, yeah, you can kind of kill yourself or make yourself completely broke, but it's very, very strong. If it's the first Sea Breach you go to, that means you have an epic vestige before you even get to the first boss. Fix a variety of small grammar and spelling issues, good. Updated the text on the question mark button on the season pass screen to reflect that the pass will be earnable after the season. Okay, sure. Just everything and anything being more clear to the player is great. Art and UI. This has been long enough as it is. I do like. Okay, we'll go through these two. UI changes can be important. Add more visibility for players in range of ground gunk. In addition to the gunk flashing, a new gunky visual appears on the player character too. This is cool. With UI, it's always a balance of making sure you give enough information and not too much information. It sounds weird, um, but I hear game designers talk about it all the time. Like sometimes you have to save the players from themselves. You know, they always want more, 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 but you can overload the screen and people with too much information at the same time. It's why you have little buff bars and, you know, little damage combat logs and stuff, and not all that information is shown to you in the same UI area. It's kind of just spread out so you don't get overloaded. Added button to main menu to show ping to game servers. Cool. I like this. I've seen some posts and issues of people in other countries, especially. Can't remember if it was South America or South Africa. Some specific region was getting pinged to a Europe area, and it was causing them to disconnect from the game servers. So this is good. It'll help them shore up issues with where people are getting routed through, serve up or sort out extra issues for that. Added your current server region and ping to the gear menu. So again, this is going to help them kind of track down server issues if they're getting disconnected a lot, or it'll be easier for the player and probably support as well to shore up issues when people are getting routed poorly or incorrectly. Fix bug where cosmetic shop would not let you purchase an item sometimes even though you had enough shinies. Okay, that's a really good fix. I haven't bought anything from the cosmetic shop yet, so but any bug in a cash type shop, which this isn't cash only because you do get shinies. They've given away enough and you get them from the battle pass. Um, there was a code, I hope it's still active, that gave you 300 shinies, so I thought that was a really good thing they did. So you can get the battle pass for free, and then you get a bunch of free shinies there too. You just have to get to level 62, I think it is, and you'll have enough shinies to buy the battle pass. So I haven't spent anything aside from the buying the early access, but I thought that was really good. I thought they should give you the first battle pass for buying early access, and that's what they did by giving out that code. Hopefully it stays active the entire time that the game is in early access, and it's not like the gacha games where they turn it off after a certain amount of time. Fix the pacifism icon to be correct one when looking at the book tooltip. Okay, so that's good. It's just, again, I've seen things that have the same icon that have different buffs or debuffs, so I'm always happy when I see they're showing up which icon is which. Fix Gleam from showing up an error on Claim Rewards button. Oh, okay, that's cool. So I used to miss this Claim Rewards button when I was finishing my quest. I think they added this Gleam onto it to let you know that it's done. So I stopped missing it. I was like, oh, here's my rewards button. So this is cool. I guess it was sometimes gleaming even though it wasn't completed. So that's good. Adjusted the brightness of Fresnel visual effects on Cinder to be more in line with other enemies. What the heck is this? Brightness on Cinder. Hmm. I mean, it's an art change, obviously. So maybe this is an art term I'm not aware of. He seemed like Cinder does seem really bright and green and colorful, but I kind of think that's how he's supposed to be. So I don't know what this is. Change binding tooltip header to augments instead of upgrades for consistency. Yeah, I kind of just call them. There's so much terminology from past games, so I'm finally starting to call things augments, but sometimes I say an upgrade, sometimes I say a talent, sometimes I say there's so many terminology overlap from other games. I'm sure a lot of other people are falling into it too. But the tooltips and all of that in the game should definitely be consistent. So good, good change. Doesn't mean I will get it right every time or others, but it's definitely good for players to see the consistency. Audio changes, fix some Gardner voiceover lines. I really hope they voice over everything. I really like their voice actors. I think some of them may be in-house people. Um, I haven't went through, and I'm not a big person who knows, oh, this guy's voice acted, 10 other different people or whatever, but the character thematics that they have and the art and stuff, the voiceover really matches a lot of them. I think their voiceover work so far has been superb. And I'm somebody who's probably going to skip over a lot of the lines if it's not voiced over. I'll just be like, click, 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 I want to play more. So voiceover helps get me into the lore and the story, where otherwise I kind of, I don't want to say I don't care, but I just don't care enough to read really long blotches of text in a lot of cases, unless it's an actual RPG or something like that, where a game like this where I like it, but I don't want to be bothered by it at the same time. So the voiceover helps a lot getting me involved in the characters and the world. Engine changes and other bug fixes, improved messaging when server is down for a patch. This is great. I know people have complained about this. They'll be in the middle of a run and all they get is like a 30-minute warning or something, and sometimes they don't even see it. Improved messaging when servers are down for maintenance patches. Great. I tried to log in during the last big patch and it just kind of sat there and I didn't know what was going on until I went to Discord. So these are important, especially post-release. You don't want people upset they can't get into the game and had no way to know or no reason why. Refactors have some visual tech works to fix a rare bug some people encounter and stuff. These cryptic ones are always funny to me. Like the one or two people that don't read patch notes that this happened to, this was just for them, but they'll never know, right? Super rare bug. Port fixes that are still being worked on. We're working on some port fixes for server connectivity and multiplayer that we aren't ready to launch yet. Those issues include reducing or fixing the error some players encounter that says fell behind game server. This is what I was talking about with the South Africa thing, I think. Is South America or South Africa, something like that. It was happening to a specific region of people that I saw them working on in the Discord, which is cool that they had people in the Discord actually working on it and tracking it down and all that. So it looks like that they are tracking down some of these and just trying to shore up that error as much as they can, which is great because this is like a game ending error, right? If you keep getting fell behind the server, game server, you'd never complete a run. You can never like play the game. So fix kicking, disconnecting players not working during a run, which can soft lock the run. So this sounds like co-op to me. I guess since you have to have all of the players click on the next zone, if they disconnect, you're just kind of stuck there with the disconnected player. So that's great. Fixes co-op. I haven't run into this. I've only run solo, so Fixing not being able to kick the party leader if they are disconnected or run, don't come back, which can soft lock the run. Again, another co-op thing, it sounds like. So this is great. I'm not a big fan of vote kicks, but the game and community seems great so far. I don't think people will be vote kicking just to be tools about it. But I mean, you have to have this, right? Otherwise, you soft lock it if the leader disconnects. Um, but yeah, it looks like they're working all of these, which is great. These are some of the kind of game ending bugs, right? Or run ending in the cases of co-op here. And this one, game ending if you're on one of those countries or servers that are having those issues. So yeah, it's great. I hope they kind of shore up um, the wording and how they send out the patch notes. I'd like to see all the gameplay changes be specific to nerfs, buffs, changes in items and such, and then a section specifically on bug fixes and changes. I think this is fine. Engine and whatever changes. I just want this section, the very top section, broken out into what's a gameplay change and what's a bug fix in gameplay. But that's just me. Maybe I'm alone in that. Okay, that took me much longer than I thought it would. I think next time I do it, I will definitely have notes available. Yeah, I do like discussing and seeing the changes. This is already their second major patch. So here was their first one. I'm not going to go over all these right now, but they've had two major patches and it's early access, which definitely a great sign for them being on top of the game, looking at everything that it's going through. All right, well, let me know what you guys think of the patch as well. Um, I'm going to end it here for now. Come back in a bit and do a couple runs. But yeah, I I like really like the patch. So we'll see what we can break on it now. See you guys soon. Thank you.